What's up, guys? Welcome back to Pound for Pound House. The Machine Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo. Fuck, I forgot the Triple C part. Whatever. Triple C Henry Cejudo. Going down UFC 298. Super stoked about this fight. This fight is going to be absolutely amazing. And the reason being is because this is going to be a technical fight. And I enjoy a striking match just as much as the next person does. Because who doesn't enjoy a striking match, right? Like, striking, obviously, the most fun part of MMA, I want to say. But technical fights like this, where guys are both well-rounded, it's just exciting. It's just really exciting. For me personally, I just love, how they kind of established their game plan in this. And especially with the pedigree these guys have in wrestling, to see those exchanges, it's going to be really interesting. I'm excited about this. I cannot wait. I've been waiting for him to set this fight up for actually quite some time. And even though I knew it was coming, I just, was hoping it would be sooner. 298 is already unfolding to be an amazing card. And to add these guys into it, it just makes it that much better. So I'm going to break this fight down, give you my thoughts on it, and then I'll tell you my predictions. So let's jump into it. Here we are. Merab the Machine Dvalishvili. Every time I hear the Machine, I actually think about the comedian, the Machine. He's obviously, the name fits him so well. He's a, he's obviously a machine. He's a full-blown machine, especially when he fought Piotr Yan, and what he did that day. The name is perfect for him. Perfect. So, diving into the obvious things about him, he's 16 wins, 4 losses. He's 33 years old, so he's in his prime. He's right there. He's 5'6", weighs in at 135 pounds. On his never really misses weight, I think. I don't remember the last time seeing him miss weight. So he's always on weight. He's super professional. That's really what it is. He fought Piotr Yan last, just like I mentioned. He was an absolute savage. I think he broke a record in there with the, takedown attempts. What a savage in that fight. What he did to Piotr Yan, I don't know if there's anybody else. Even Aljo couldn't do what he did. Jose Aldo, great fight. Unanimous decision. Then before that, in 2021, he fought Marlon Moraes and won by TKO. The thing about him is that I'm seeing he's not, in the last 2 years at least, for 2023 and 2022, he hasn't been as active. I think he also hurt his hand. So he's been a lot less active. Which I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it's great. I mean, I think he still, gets time to recover and so on. But yeah, he's definitely a little less active. So, I mean, I don't know how that's going to really play into the fight. But then again, Cejudo's been pretty inactive too. So, he's obviously won his last 9 fights. And his last loss was to Ricky Simone, who just fought over the weekend. And unfortunately, he lost too. But aside from that, he's been on a tear. 9-fight win streak. Unfortunately, most of his fights have just been unanimous decisions, which I guess cool. But yeah, I mean, he's been on a run though, a 9-fight run. He's obviously a great grappler. He's a great striker. He's fought an amazing amount of people with pretty good names too here, and ex-champions. So, he's a great fighter. I personally think he's a great fighter, great pressure fighter. He's a person that doesn't seem to get tired too often. So, looks like he just keeps coming forward. Especially seeing his last fight, it looks like it. How does he recover from the hand, though? That's going to be interesting to see. Does his hand recover fully, or does it end up like Dan Hooker, where Dan Hooker broke his hand, and then right before his last fight, busted his hand again? How does this really end up? We'll see, I guess, Now, jumping over to Triple C, Henry Cejudo. Apparently, I guess his name was the Messenger before. I like Triple C better, personally. He's 36 years old. He's 5'4", 16 losses, 3 wins. He's never submitted anybody. He's never gotten submitted himself, which is interesting. His last loss was obviously to Merab's training partner, Aljamain Sterling, which is not even in the bantamweight division anymore. So this is interesting, right? But he's obviously beat so many people prior to that. So many champions, I want to say. Dominic Cruz, Marlon Moraes, TJ Dillashaw, Demetrius Johnson, Sergio Pettis. He's beat the best of the best. And before that, unfortunately, he took 2 losses back to back, which I think, were obviously tough, but, he came back so much more stronger, and he obviously beat DJ, who's arguably the greatest fighter, or at the least top 5 greatest fighters of all time. And I'm personally a huge fan. He's in my top 5, 100%. He came back and avenged his loss there with him, but he's been out for a while. Ring rust, 3 years he was out till he fought Aljamain Sterling, and that was a huge factor. But for somebody that was out for 3 years, he actually looked pretty decent, because some people with ring rust really sucked, like Kobe. And for somebody like him who was out, I think he was just still training throughout the process. But, hey, he looked really good. I think he looked pretty damn good for somebody that was out for 3 years and had ring rust. So, kudos to him on that. But unfortunately, he lost that decision, and by a very close decision too, a split decision at that. He got wrestled a little bit by Aljamain. It was I want to say still pretty back and forward, but it was a great fight though. Still a great fight. Now, even though he's been out for some time, he still holds a very similar record to Merab, which is pretty interesting to see. Now, how does it play out between these two? Well, let's jump right into that. So as I mentioned, this is a very technical and competitive fight. One of the things that I kind of want to point out right off the bat is that there's a height discrepancy. So obviously Henry Cejudo is a shorter guy. But typically with the wrestling, I've noticed, and a lot of the other wrestlers have said this, when it comes to the shorter guy, it's harder to get them down, especially if you're taller. Building a base against someone smaller, it's typically ends up being more difficult. It wasn't necessarily the case with Aljo, but I don't see Merab getting the same amount of takedowns or that same amount of. I don't think he gets that type of pressure, or he's able to apply that type of pressure like he applied with Piotr Jan against Henry Cejudo. Because considering what Henry's background is and the pedigree he has in wrestling, I don't see that happening. In fact, if he tries to exchange that way, I see it being way more competitive, and I almost see the opposite. I think that Henry actually gets him down. So it's going to be interesting to see that. And now, looking at it from what angle he might have to stay, I feel like he might have to keep it standing. He does possess the longer reach. He probably can use his distance, keep him at bay, and all he just has to really worry about with Cejudo is probably just time, watch his shots. Watch his shots, meaning to say his takedowns. But at the same time, I don't think that playing it safe is the answer. So it's going to be interesting which path he chooses. Does he go in the direction of just wrestling or not? As far as Henry goes, I actually think he should choose wrestling. I think his that's really where he shines. That's where he's the best at, and I think him going in for wrestling Merab might be his best option. He doesn't have any submissions under his belt, but at the same time, he can pull out a decision this way, right? Now, who do I think actually wins this? Some might hate me for this, but I actually think Triple C pulls it off. And being that, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I don't think Merab is going to be able to pose the same will that he imposed on Piotr. I think that Henry is going to be able to deflect a lot of it, and Henry might be able to impose his own will. Now, because remember I was saying about ring rust. I think when Henry got into the fight with Aljo, he was probably feeling the ring out still. I think it was like, just to get back into the swing of things. I think that was almost what the fight was, but at the same time, it had a title contention behind it. So it probably was, an extra push for him. But typically somebody all laid off for 3 years comes back. It's, you can tell the movement's not the same. A lot of things are the same. But now that he's got it out of his system and now he's able to, really be comfortable again, I see a different Cejudo. I see that Cejudo comes in much more focused, much more risk taking, I want to say. And I think he's going to be a forward pressure this time. So it's going to be interesting whose pressure cancels out whose pressure, because they're obviously, Merab is coming after him full force, right? Merab is going forward no matter what. But at the same time, Henry's probably not going to back off at this time, in this fight. Merab still got that, the golden nugget, I want to say, because he's been training with Aljo, and he's with Aljo, and Aljo obviously beat Cejudo, which was once again a very close fight. I think that gives him a 1-up, and that might help him with Cejudo to kind of find out. But like I said, considering all things with his, him being out for such a long time, all these factors that are play into it, I don't know if he got the best Cejudo or if we got the best Cejudo. I think we do now. Even though he's 36, I think we still get the best Cejudo. And I'm excited to see that. I think that he gets it done by decision. I don't see him knocking Merab out. I don't obviously see him submitting, because that's not really his path usually. Shit, I could be wrong. He could probably submit him though. You never know. Might be like that first submission finally he does, right? But yeah, it's definitely a decision win. It looks like it's most 90%. I want to say, in my opinion, it's a decision win. But I think it's Cejudo. I think Cejudo takes it. And Cejudo is a mastermind at breaking down people. So keep that in mind. If you watch some of his videos, you can see the guy is detailed on how he breaks things down. So he's like, he almost reads things very differently. Obviously his pedigree is, his pedigree is wrestling, but he also has so much knowledge just in combat. It's going to be interesting to see how he breaks this fight down after it's done. So I'm going to be looking forward to that. But nothing against Merab. I honestly, personally love Merab myself too. I think Merab's a great fighter. I think he obviously has title potential. We should have been in a title fight a long time ago, but whatever. It is what it is. But I think I love Merab still. I'd probably pick him over most people or majority of the fighters on that roster. But in this case, I'm going to have to go with my main man, Triple C. So, yeah, that's my pick on that. I want to know what you guys think. Where does this fight go? Does it go to decision? Does it not? TKO, submission? Leave it all in the comments below. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Like this video. Thank you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like this video. Also, if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you can see all the new videos I upload.